The crack of the slap silenced the room. Music halted mid-beat. Laughter died in throats. My wine glass trembled in my hand as my best friend, Ryan, stood over my husband, eyes blazing. "You think you can lie to me?" Ryan spat, voice trembling. "You think you can humiliate me like that in front of everyone?" My husband, Daniel, stood there stunned, his cheek red, the echo of impact still vibrating through the air. But what froze me wasn't Ryan's rage. It was the way he looked at me right after. Like I was the cause. Like I'd betrayed him. And maybe I had. The night had started like a celebration. Our 5th wedding anniversary. Hosted in the very house that symbolized everything I thought we'd built together. White lights twinkled over the backyard, laughter spilled across the lawn, and Daniel played the perfect husband, hand at my waist, whispering compliments that made our guests swoon. He had always known how to perform. I remember catching Ryan's eyes from across the pool. There was a flicker there. Something raw, something that didn't belong in a friendly glance. Guilt slithered in my stomach. I looked away too fast, pretending to fix my lipstick, pretending not to remember the messages. Last night shouldn't have happened. We can't do this again. He doesn't deserve this. Each text had burned like acid on my phone screen. Ryan and I had crossed a line 2 weeks ago. It was messy and impulsive and wrong, born from loneliness and Daniel's growing absence. He'd been emotionally distant for months, absorbed in his late-night business meetings, and muted phone calls that always ended when I entered the room. Ryan had listened when Daniel didn't. But I never imagined it would spiral like this. When Ryan stormed in late to the party, his tie loosened, eyes glassy from whiskey, I knew something was off. He didn't even greet me. He walked straight to Daniel, who was laughing with my colleagues near the bar. I saw it in slow motion, the confrontation, the words exchanged that I couldn't fully hear, and then that sudden vicious slap that cracked the air open. Now, as the crowd stared in frozen shock, Ryan's words hung heavy between us all. "She's not who you think she is," he said, turning to Daniel. "Ask her about last Friday night. Ask her where she was." A chill raced down my spine. Daniel's eyes darted to mine. "What's he talking about, Emily?" Every heartbeat thundered in my ears. I tried to speak, but my throat felt like it was closing. "Ryan, stop," I whispered. "Please." But Ryan was past reason. "You think you can play us both? I told you I loved you, Emily. And you said you felt the same. Was that a lie too?" The room gasped. My world splintered in an instant. I wanted to explain, to tell the truth and yet not tell it. To say I was lonely, not cruel. To say I had made a mistake but not a choice. But Daniel's face hardened as realization sank in. "Is it true?" His voice was calm, frighteningly calm. I nodded, tears welling. "It was a mistake, Daniel. It wasn't supposed to mean." He raised his hand sharply. "Don't." The silence that followed was unbearable. Whispers rippled through the guests like a spreading fire. Some avoided my gaze. Others watched with morbid curiosity. I wanted the ground to open and swallow me whole. Ryan's expression shifted from fury to regret, as if he hadn't meant for this explosion to happen, as if he'd only wanted to force the truth out. But it was too late. The damage was done. Later, after everyone had left, after the lights had dimmed and the wine had soured, I sat alone on the kitchen floor, knees to my chest, mascara streaking down my face. Daniel had left without a word. Ryan had tried to apologize, but I couldn't bear to look at him. I replayed everything in my mind. Daniel's late nights, his coldness, the unfamiliar perfume that clung to his jacket once. I'd buried those suspicions, convinced myself I was paranoid. But deep down, maybe I'd sought revenge before even realizing it. Maybe that's what Ryan had been to me. A mirror for my hurt. And maybe that's what destroyed us all. The next morning I found Daniel's car still in the driveway. For a fleeting second I thought he'd stayed, maybe ready to talk. But when I stepped inside, the house was stripped of warmth. His wedding ring sat on the counter beside an envelope. Inside was a single photo. Daniel and another woman. smiling, arms around each other. Taken months ago. The timestamp in the corner made my stomach twist. Behind it, a note. You weren't the only one who was lonely. I sank onto the floor, clutching the photo, laughter and sobs tangling together until I couldn't tell them apart. All this time I'd been drowning in guilt for betraying him, when he'd been doing the same, quietly, elegantly, without the chaos. Ryan had thought he was defending me, exposing my lie. But in doing so, he'd exposed Daniel's too. We were all complicit. All liars. That night, the silence of the house was unbearable. I stood before the mirror, looking at the reflection of the woman I'd become. Haunted, hollow, unrecognizable. In the reflection, I could still see the shimmer of the party lights. Hear the echo of that slap, feel the sting of every truth that had followed. Betrayal wasn't loud. It was quiet. It lived in glances, half-truths, the spaces between what's said and what's felt. And as much as I wanted to hate them both, I realized something even more painful. I'd betrayed myself long before either of them did.